If you want to make a difference and leave a legacy, I would tell you to find a mentor and seek knowledge. Then turn around, find someone else who needs a mentor, and continue to pass the torch. All right, we are on another episode of Pass the Torch podcast. We're here with Brad, who I feel like there's nothing that he doesn't do. He operates Rococo, which is a boutique coconut oil company. Runs the social media for Macro Voices, which is an investment podcast hosted by a hedge fund manager. He's a fellow Vayner Nation member. And then when he's not doing that, he is a business developer for Tosa Brooks, who's a hip hop artist and a classmate from West Point, which means you're an Army officer yourself, right? An infantry officer to be exact. And you also run Big Brad Business Bump. I'm just like, okay, what do you not do? So I want to welcome you to Pass the Torch podcast, man, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Just an admin note, we've changed the podcast name to the Tosa B Show, which really works well because Tosa and then he kind of includes me a little bit, but it's mostly about him. I'm just kind of an afterthought. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I do many different things because I'm passionate about a lot of different things, and I just enjoy a lot of variety, so I tend to mix it up, and I'm one of those people that just kind of like, I don't plan out a ton. I kind of just go with the flow, and I'm, to steal a phrase from Gary Vee, I'm a bit of a counterpuncher myself, so I like to go and push and push and push, and then see where the fires pop up, and then go and put out those fires. As far as my bio, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, the only key, hit points is, I spent 4 years at West Point, graduated in 2015. I've been an infantry officer for the past 2 years. And I'm just kind of doing my thing, and spending all of my spare time trying to create, a lot of long-term relationships for my, hopefully, my benefit down the road. And I'm trying to bring a lot of value to a lot of people. Because one, it's fun. Like, I genuinely just like interacting with people. And I just like solving problems. So I like being the go-to guy that when somebody has a problem pop up, they will text me or call me, because that's just what I enjoy doing.
Absolutely. So, Army officer, what made you want to join the Army, and then how was that transition into entrepreneurship?
So for me, it really, what I kind of refined it down to, as I've been asked that, as I'm sure you have, why did you join the Marines? I've been asked that so many times, and every time I give a slightly tweaked answer, and what it's come to currently is, I think it's really born out of a sense of gratitude. And I'm extremely grateful that I was born in the United States. For some weird reason, I was just gifted with really good perspective, and I understood, since I was in high school, that where I was born is obviously not under my control. And for some reason, that was really apparent to me at a young age. And so I felt a sense of, I need to do something to pay the universe back. Whoever put me here, I feel like I need to give back somehow. And so earlier in my life, I really thought that going into the Army and being an Army officer, I was generally a smart kid. I thought that being an officer was the best way to do that. My opinion on that has changed a little bit, and I'm more forward-looking. I think that being an entrepreneur and bringing value to a lot of people, now that social media is having effects that it's having on society, and your ability to impact the people around you is so much greater now because, you know, the world's now flat. And that's really, I'm pushing towards that in a macro of trying to give back to just like, I just feel like I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
And I just want to do something to earn it. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. So every day, I obviously, through what you're saying, you're definitely someone who has a lot of gratitude. And again, being a very Vayner Nation fan, Gary Vee preaches about gratitude all the time. And you're about someone who wants to give back. But what makes you wake up in the morning to want to do that? What is your why that keeps your passion on fire? And even when this gets hard, you still tell yourself, hey, this is absolutely worth it.
That's a good question. I guess I mean, can I use the same answer twice? Can I say gratitude twice?
You can, absolutely.
I mean, it's like I think the answer to that again is gratitude. Like we're so lucky. Like we're born and something. So I don't remember exactly where it was, and it was a little while ago. But Gary Vaynerchuk said something that really hit me and like messed with my head for a little while. He said that we are the first generation that's going to be documented, like our entire lives. So the rest of history of humankind is going to look back to where did we start? And it's going to be us. Like we're the first ones who are documenting everything.
Yeah.
So like there's a greater, and that kind of like put me on fire lately to where that has me like, oh my gosh, like my grandkids and great grandkids and so many greats down the line are going to see everything that I did.
Yeah.
I want them to be like, oh my God, I need to live up to great grandpa's legacy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly,
definitely.
I'm trying to like put pressure on them, 500 years in the future. I mean, they're going to be listening to this, dude. Like, how crazy is that?
That's crazy.
So there's a sense of that. There's a sense of we're the first ones where legitimately there is actually equal opportunity now.
Yeah.
Like it's the internet has just ousted every middleman, every gatekeeper, and so now it's just wide open.
Yep.
And honestly, man, like so I come from a really small town in Florida, and we're just kind of like a lot of middle class white kids, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people who I grew up with are like, and this is not a statement about their character or their ambition or anything, but they're not really doing a ton. So honestly, I'm kind of doing it for them. Like I want to show them that it's possible, because I'm like not anything special. I'm just a normal kid. And I just want to show everybody what's possible, I guess, in a way.
No, it's huge, and you're absolutely right. It's crazy to think that everything we do, and not like in a creepy way, but in a cool like space capsule type of way, that everything we do, future generations are going to be able to look back in a way that we've never been able to do before. Like right now, when we were sitting in classrooms, what were we doing? We were looking at these history books, and the coolest part was when there were color pictures. Like, they redefined these black and white pictures are now in color. Well, the next generation, they're not going to have to deal with black and white pictures going to color. They're going to be able to see HD video of this is how I did this. This is how we figured out how to build the Hyperloop or whatever's out there, whether it be ending disease, which that's on the horizon. Space travel is on the horizon. Things that we're seeing now, cars drive themselves, or just small businesses, and how they're going to be able to see within your family line, like this is how great-great-grandpa built this business. He not only was defined as a person who served in the United States Army, but we're not even letting that really define what we do. That's not the only thing you have to do, because before, if you were a Marine officer or an Army officer, that's what you did, and that was all what you did. Now you don't have to be as restricted with that. You're still dedicated to what you do on a daily basis, but there's been like a few other Army officers and Marines. I'm seeing a lot more entrepreneurship within the military, which is super, super exciting. But yeah, that legacy piece, man.
Yeah, because a lot of people with a lot of work ethic gravitate towards both of those professions, right?
Yeah.
So like the more, I guess, like combat arms side of the military tends to, the people who want to get after it and kind of maybe want to work a little harder, and I'm generalizing way more than I should be right now, but generally the more goats tend to gravitate towards those branches. So it just makes sense to me that those would be the more entrepreneurial minded, and everybody who I talk about, who I work with, who I talk to about these other things that I'm doing on the side, they get super amped about it, man.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're going to be doing it before long.
So do you get negative feedback though? Like, okay, you're an Army officer. Why are you doing other projects? Have you ever gotten anything negative? I'm just breaking down into a real conversation because I have. So
you have?
Yeah. So, and I was very careful to discuss that I was doing a company outside, because anything, if I dropped any balls, it would have automatically gone to, not that I'm a human being, but hey, it's because of that business. And then you have to give that up, because that's automatically what everybody thinks is the issue.
Yeah. I haven't really gotten that much flack about it, to be completely honest. Now I've gotten a little restrictive on my own personal social media.
Yeah.
So I don't post that much on IG or Snapchat really, and on my personal accounts anymore. So I'm more active on my business accounts.
Yeah.
But there's kind of like a smoke screen. I don't want to say a smoke screen. That sounds kind of bad. But like, it's not 100% apparent.
Yeah.
That me there, and people don't attribute directly to me. So I get kind of a pass there. Yeah. Whereas when I started getting real active on Snapchat a couple months ago, and actually, I did get actually a lot of flack once in like how often I was going to the post office with like a bundle of packages of coconut. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of pushed me into a little bit of a rabbit hole on my personal social, which I'm okay with. That's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
So I've just been a little creative in weaseling around.
It's funny
the pushback.
When we find each other though, when it's like fellow military people doing it, we're like, yeah, what's up, man? Like, tell me about what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the main reason I'm on the show today is because Pete from Carabines sent me over here.
Yeah. And they're Marines, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a Marine. So, dude, this is so crazy. We connected randomly in a Team Gary V live stream that had 12 people on it the night of Gary's meetup in New York City. I was literally just being a clown and just messing with people live stream, just making funny comments. And Pete gets on and comments, at Brad Bachand, you seem funny. I'd like to do business with you. He's like, do you have a business? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, bro. Yeah. So we DM'd each other and we were on the phone the next day. And I think of Pete as a good friend now.
Yeah.
Like, so random.
That is.
But yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Dude, I'm obsessed with the connections made inside the Vayner community.
Yeah.
There's got to be some way that we can like do something there. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be some sort. I don't want to call it a mastermind, because then somebody's going to be like, oh, $5,000 mastermind to join the Vayner Nation mastermind. Like, that's not what I want. I just want a page where we can all just like interact, and I want it to actually help it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's something we got to work on. I'm like, do they have that?
Yeah, maybe Mentorch page. Yeah. Maybe just make a Mentorch Facebook page, and I'll jump on it.
Yeah.
I'll push it.
I have, so that's actually something coming up. The Mentorch Torchholders Tribe, and it's all about mentorship. And that's something that we could help peer mentor each other. That's actually on the way. So I think I need to get on that pretty soon here then. Sooner than later.
I mean, yeah.
No, that's a great idea. It's really interesting though, because there is this underlying Vayner Nation community that is hungry, passionate. We actually care about each other. Like, it's not, no, I can't be successful if you can't. No, we generally and genuinely do care about what the other's doing, and are like, I was pumped when Eileen told me about what you were doing, and about how you and Pete had met, and then how they introduced us to you. I was like, that's insane. Like, what are the chances? Because we were talking earlier about how my podcast is getting out there, and generally, it was me going on Instagram and finding other people, but now that's the community itself at work. So that's pretty phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
just by itself. Like, it's pretty much going on its own momentum.
Yeah.
So I want to hear about some of the projects that you're doing right now. We've gone over Rococo, Macro Voices, Tosa, and your podcast. You can talk about anything, but I just want to know, like, what project would you like to talk about, like, that you want to kind of skyline right now, and that's teaching you a lot.
Yeah, so let's just talk about Tosa Brooks, because there's just so much to talk about there.
Absolutely.
And that's really been a very constructive strategy play.
Yeah.
That one, I'm super proud of where it's going, and I think that there's a lot of value there that your listeners will be able to dig out of it.
Okay.
So Jonathan Lehman, Tosa Brooks, he's a classmate of mine from West Point, and we connected probably about 5 months ago, just randomly. I shared something that he did. I've always liked his music.
Yeah.
But he hadn't put out too much of it. Well, we connected over that. Then somehow we got on the phone and started talking, and we realized that we had very complementary skill sets. Mm-hmm. So this is advice that Gary gives to artists a lot. Yeah. And I realized that it was literally just the match made in heaven. You have a really talented dude, Tosa, and then me, who's very business minded. Mm-hmm. And his issue basically was like, dude, I don't know how to get people to hear my music. And I was like, bro, got you. And so I was like, look, he was like, do you want to like help you with marketing? And I was like, yes, I do. Yeah. So, and that was basically it. So it was really convenient that we already had the mutual, like, shared understanding. You know, we were already classmates, so we already kind of knew each other from afar. So when we got into it, the first thing that he had to do was put out more music, mm-hmm. just straight up. And that's the first piece of advice to any artists, musical or otherwise, who are listening, is you're probably not putting out of your content. So at first, the plan was a song a week. And so we hit that for a while, and that was pretty easy. But then Jonathan moved to LA, mm-hmm. and basically a lot of his time got freed up, and so because he was med boarded out of the Army, so he has a stipend and he gets the GI Bill for school. So he's going to the music program at UCLA.
Nice.
So he has the great fortune of not having to work a job. Mm-hmm. So for anyone else who's in that situation, you need to capitalize on that as hard as you can. So we're going ham, and basically we just decided 2 weeks ago that he's going to put out a song a day for the next year.
Wow.
Recently on an episode of Daily B, Gary said that and some artist is going to blow up because they're putting out a song a day, and I literally called him. Like, I stopped Daily B as I was watching it every day, like I do at 12:30.
Yeah.
I literally stopped it. All it was like, okay, we put out a song a day for like the past 8 days. We're gonna keep going. Screw it. Let's just go. And he was like, yep, let's do it. And so that's the thing. Is like, I'm so lucky, and I'm so lucky to have the relationship that I do with Tosa, because we are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And that's what you'll see, I think, in the artists that make it over the next few years, mm-hmm. is that they're willing to just work, man. Like that dude he works harder than I do, honestly. Like, yeah, it's been amazing. So I'll give some like real tactical things that we're doing.
Yeah.
One thing that we're doing that I don't see a lot of other people do is we're taking the overall framework is how do we bring more value to our audience than anyone else could possibly imagine.
That's huge.
One, so the long-term plan is all of his music, no matter what, will be free forever. Like, that's a promise.
Whew.
So that's that. And that, honestly, man, has actually made it hard to work with producers and even video guys, because we're like, yo, we're trying to create music and get it heard by making it free. We're trying to drop barriers to entry.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to drop like royalty contracts, and it's like, dude, you're a producer whose stuff doesn't get heard anyways.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Just
Yeah.
get it heard. You know? So we're trying to play the game that people are going to be playing 5 years from now, not the game that they're playing today.
Yeah.
So one big way that we're trying to bring disproportionate value that we've been doing for like the past 4 weeks, and it's already working super well, is we are creating custom tracks, basically hype anthems for influencers. You'll love this. So we started off with our classmate Chandler Smith. So Chandler is a CrossFit athlete. He made it to region last year in the Atlantic region in Atlanta, Georgia, and he recently lost part of his finger because the skirt armor on a tank closed on it. So there's obviously a pretty cool story there, and we already know Chandler. Yeah. So we made one for him. It kind of blew up a little bit. So Tosa has about 2,000 followers on Facebook. It got about 10,000 views, which is pretty good, considering audience size.
Very good.
And then we just started laddering that up. So next we got in touch with this dude Jared Enderton, made a sick anthem and video for him.
Yeah.
It helps that Tosa's a great video editor. Shout out to him for that. He's got skills. And so made one for him. That got us even more traction. We just finished one for this dude Sam Dancer, who's actually a CrossFit Games athlete, and his best friend has Down syndrome. His name's James. Mm-hmm. So we made it. Dude, it was so neat. You should actually go listen to it. It's like a super heartfelt and meaningful song, and it's just blown up. So it's still being shared on Facebook. It's up to like 16. No, actually, I think it just hit like 17,000 views on Facebook.
Yeah.
He's 200 followers over the past couple weeks from it. So and the most important thing is like it's getting heard. You know what I mean? Like people are actually hearing it.
Yeah.
So, and that's the main issue that for some reason people just don't understand, is you just have to do whatever it takes to get your stuff heard. Now, I mean, that said, people might misinterpret that as, you need to also be conscious of keeping good relationships with people. And luckily we've structured it in a way to where we're doing both. We're bringing huge value and developing great relationships with people. Like now we have great relationships with all three of the dudes we've worked with. We're working on doing 2 more for a couple of other big dudes that'll come out in the next 2 weeks. I'll keep under wraps who they are for now.
Yeah.
But that literally was just an idea that was just born out of me just being like, oh, hey, maybe this is a good idea. And then we started doing it and it was working, and we just went, hey. But we just didn't wait for permission. We didn't ask the guys hey, would you be okay with us doing this? It was hey, we made this awesome thing for you.
Yeah.
It's in your inbox. If you love it, awesome. I love it. It could have gone the other way. They could have not liked the song or the video. Luckily, we're good enough. So, meritocracy took over, mm-hmm. and it's working, for now. Maybe we drop off because we start sucking. Who knows?
But, that's huge. And I mean, it goes kind of like Gary Vee does the vlog music, right?
It was what?
His vlog music is huge. Like, so you're sitting there watching Gary Vaynerchuk's vlogs, and you're like, who the heck does this music? Because this is pretty phenomenal. So the same thing. If you're doing that with influencers, and someone's sitting there and they're like, yeah, this influencer's cool, but who does this beat? Like, that's pretty exciting, and that's that discovery that you guys are going to be able to capitalize on, I think, more than anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, that's the plan for now, man. And people just aren't doing it.
No.
And
They're scared to. What you're doing is scary, man. It's really scary.
They're scared, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Like,
yeah.
You know? Mentally, I don't think they can afford to.
Yeah. So I'm actually seeing, and it's funny because this comes back to mentorship, that all of the people who we're interacting with who have trouble getting their mind to the same place that we do, as in the content is going to have to be free. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not playing that way, you're going to get ousted by somebody who will give it away for free. You know what I mean? We're trying to solve that business. So a lot of the reason why some people can't get there is because they have older mentors who are telling them that they need to be sure they get there.
Yeah.
And really giving them fear-based, more of a fear-based mentality rather than expansive and pushing forward mentality. So on that point, the thing that I've noticed and what I would recommend to people is when you're thinking about your mentors, you have to really evaluate whether your mentor is forward looking and is where you really want to be. So there could be someone who's successful. Like say you have an older dude who owns, three car dealerships, and maybe he's a millionaire. Mm-hmm. So you think you want to be a millionaire. So you go to him and have him be your mentor. But what you really are passionate about is social media. And if that guy's doing a lot of traditional outdoor media, he's going to tell you, dude, forget about social, billboards, and phone, like telemarketer campaigns is where it's at.
Yeah.
I think people need to start being, they need to understand where land shifts are happening, and think about the advice that they're taking accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of popular to say, I feel like.
It is. It's not comfortable, and people don't want us to do anything that's not a sure thing. But only the people who risk are the ones who are going to win in the end.
I think so. Yeah.
I will be one of the first. Definitely after, as soon as this podcast is over, but I'll make sure I push it out because my younger brother actually, he's an aspiring artist as well, not just with music but with photography. But he's huge with music, so I know he's already going to be a Tosa Brooks fan or Jonathan Lehman fan big time. I'm already excited about spreading his music around, and from how you describe it, I know it's going to be something that just takes off. Absolutely. And you already have my network for the music now, so yeah, it's I will make sure I spread it around.
And obviously, and obviously if we can make you like a podcast intro or outro, we're more than happy to do that. We work with a lot of producers who do they'll do 6 beats for one deal. So we'll get a lot of beats that he necessarily want to write to, but we just own the instrumentals.
Yeah.
So we just use them. We just cut them in for our own podcast intros. So if you're looking or whatever, hit us up, man. That's too easy.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Man, so you're just you are a forward-thinking, aggressive, just genuine person. Who in your life was your mentor that led you to be this way, that you feel made that impact to where you are today?
Yeah. So I'm really weird in the area of mentors, actually. And what I mean by that is I don't really have any personal one-on-one mentors.
Yeah.
And that I'm not writing off the idea of mentorship. I'm kind of circling around to it.
No, absolutely. So
the way I think of mentorship, actually, and this is just the way it works for me. A lot of people need that in-person thing.
Yeah.
I feel like with the immersion level of a lot of these now stars social media is I genuinely feel like Gary Vaynerchuk is my number one mentor, straight up. I've never met him.
There you go.
But I'm just so able to get there mentally, and And so like I would say my mentors are Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins.
Yes, you got it.
I'm trying to think of who else, but really, man, like Ryan Holiday, I'd say is another big one. I've listened to Obstacles Away, and literally I'm listening to Ego is the Enemy probably for the 5th time right now.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday's books are great. If you haven't read them,
I would definitely look into Ryan Holiday.
I suggest it.
Yeah.
So I think of mentorship in the year 2017. I think that you can do it remotely and have it be just as effective as traditional in-person mentorship.
No.
Just because there's just so much content out there. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So that's kind of where I get it. And also, I'm super lucky in that my mom did a really good job of never, she was just never negative with us as kids. She's never been, she's just always been a very positive person. So I'm just it's funny, sometimes to my detriment, I tend to be very trusting of people who I see and just intuitively kind of feel whether they're being genuine or not.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of it. I think you have to, in order to really be mentored by someone, you have to trust them. So you have to really be able to throw yourself into whatever advice they're giving. Otherwise, it won't work.
No, that's huge. And as far as mentorship, having that physical one-on-one relationship, I am right there with you. On my YouTube channel, it says Media Mentors, and I have not met any of these people. So Gary Vaynerchuk, Sonny Lenarduzzi, yeah, these are all social media people. Amy Schmidt-Tower, like these are people I've never met in my life, but I agree 100%. In the year 2017, mentorship doesn't necessarily need to be that one-on-one person who knows exactly what you're going through, because you can seek what they're doing and align that to what your path is. It's just like a map. If you're going somewhere, as long as the path is laid on that map, you don't need a tour guide out there saying this is where you should go, because you're smart enough to figure some of these things out on your own. No, that's phenomenal that you said that, because
yeah, the number of I've texted, like my friends will text me or DM me like, hey, how are you doing this? Or like, how did you make that graphic? And I'll be like, I used After Effects. And they'll be like, what's After?
Yeah.
Like literally, I'm not even kidding. I'm kind of embarrassed about it because it's kind of a jerk move, but it's funny.
Yeah.
I'll text back GOOGLE, all in separate text.
Yeah.
It's just like, I just want to emphasize, like, it's all out there. Like, all you have to do is go Google it.
Yeah.
You know?
Being hungry about it. Knowledge is, and that's what Mentorch is about. So we have the slogan, seek knowledge, pass the torch, and then leave a legacy, which we talk about all the time. But that seek knowledge part is so big. My memory's jacked up right now, but it was a movie, I think it was Lucy, with Morgan Freeman. And one scene stood out big time to me. Morgan Freeman, in his very revered voice, goes, I guess it was Lucy said, what do we do with all this knowledge? And he goes, pass it on. And it was just, it was, for me, it was, it's just really profound. It's very simple, but it's huge. What do you do with all this knowledge? You pass it on. Otherwise, it doesn't really have value. If it dies, like you were saying, future generations are going to get to know what you're doing, and they're going to get to follow along what you're doing. But if it stopped at you, like, that's so boring and sad at the same time.
Yeah, it's boring. Yeah. Yeah, there's this I'm not into, I read and watch videos on a lot of very woo-woo things. Yeah. So things that are like spiritual and energy. And you have to kind of dig into kind of things to pull out the little nuggets of wisdom that are in there, because there are some general truths that are just kind of buried under the weird, like, archangels and stuff, weird stuff like that. Yeah. But there's this concept, I think it might be in the book The Kabbalion.
Okay.
And the general idea is if you hoard knowledge without using it or sprint, you actually will be a failure. And I've honestly found that to be a very instructive mindset. So at certain points in my life, I get overextended and I need to kind of figure some stuff out. So I'll go, to the cave and I'll be on Google and watching YouTube videos and learning. And then at other points, once I've done that enough, I'll realize that I'm doing that too much. And then you have to go and actually produce. Huge. And it's just a constant, and that's what life is. Just a little sine wave, with an upward bias, and you're just like going up and down, and you remember and you forget over and over again. That's life.
Huge. No, I love that. That's too cool. All right, I'm like getting chills. I always get chills over when I have like really, really good conversation. I'm like, man, there's so many people out there exist like this, that you're like, who thinks like this? But they're out there, and my conversation with you just continues to, remind me of that. So going into that, I'm going to ask if someone's like loving what Brad's doing, they're like, man, I really look up to you. How can I get you to be my mentor? Someone wants Brad to be their mentor. What would you say to them, and what would you lay down as like expectations for that relationship?
I would say the expectation that I would lay down is I will literally give you everything, and I don't expect anything back. And I would literally leave it at that. Anybody, if you're listening to the stuff like I have to say, and you want to connect with me, just DM me on Instagram. You just Google my name, Bradley Bachand. That's spelled Bachand. I will give you everything. Yeah. And I won't ask anything for it, because I don't need anything from anyone. And genuinely, I think that there's just so much opportunity that there's just no reason to ever worry about you getting yours. If you're giving, it just is going to come back to you. And again, that's such a woo-woo concept, but I'm kind of getting amped up over here. If you actually try it, just giving, and don't ask at all. Yeah. Never, if something, don't even caveat it. Just say yes, I'll give you all of this. And then they're like, what do you want in back? I don't know, a thank you. Don't ask for anything.
Yeah. I like it.
Amazed that winds up coming back. You know what I mean? And you just have to try it to understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's so hard to explain. And I know you, just kind of the way you roll, I know that you know what I'm talking about, because you're doing it in your own way over there.
Definitely. I think I'm gonna do a campaign. You've inspired me. I'm gonna put it in Thanksgiving, in November. We're gonna do some type of gratitude giving campaign, because I know other people are out there like that, and then I want to hear from them. That's what just came in my head as you were saying that, because that's awesome. And I think sometimes people are like that. They want to be like that, but they need to be just pushed a little bit, So.
Yeah, they got to be pushed and poked, man. Yeah. I literally said that in a little, just a short little podcast I did the other day, that I was because I know a lot of my friends listen to the stuff I do. I don't have an audience. It's mostly the 50 people I know from high school and college.
That is definitely an audience.
I'm really saying, I just want to poke them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just want to poke them until they're so annoyed that they just try it finally. You know what I mean? Whatever it takes to get them to start moving.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna, once they start, they're never gonna be able to stop.
Absolutely. You remind me of that cartoon with the guy who's digging, and he's digging towards gold or diamonds depending on the picture, and you're the type of guy who doesn't leave. You find all the diamonds, you're like, okay, anyway, keep going. And just got to show people you have to keep going, because as soon as you stop, you don't know how close you were to. And in your example, you're poking someone, that next poke could be the thing that finally awakens them to do that gratitude exercise, or to finally not limit themselves due to their fears or self-perceived limitations and stuff like that.
Yeah. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking about what you're doing over at Mentorch, and trying to bring, positive influences to people, and trying to spread I don't know. I guess maybe a combination of knowledge and a positive outlook on life and the world is going, and you're going to wind up reaping the benefits of what you're doing in probably a bigger way than you even expect, because they're going to go out and do amazing things, and they're going to wind up crediting you, and you're not even going to realize it, because the type of you go out and actually execute, they probably won't talk a lot about it, but one day you'll just get an email from them, and it'll be, be the CEO of the next Salesforce, and it'll be like, yo, I listened to your podcast, and that's the reason I started. You know what I mean? And you never know where or how that's going to pop up.
No.
So, like, I really like what you're doing over at Mentorch. And for anyone who's thinking about doing something similar, I would encourage them to do it, because you never know what you're going to spark and in who and lead you down the road. And you will always get the attribution for setting that off in them. Yeah, man.
Like, I truly, again, I'm beating this up a little bit, but it's so important. And it's, some people see it like, oh, this space is becoming crowded. I don't believe that for one second. I truly believe that a rising tide does lift all the ships, that are surrounding that area. There is room for everybody to be successful, and you not to have to tear down someone else in order for you to reach the top. And that's, some people call me naive, and that's okay, because I'm not going to change. Optimism has got me where I am.
Anti-cynicism campaign. Let's just rid the world of cynicism. That's all it is. That's just cynicism.
Man, and
anybody who ever refers to me as naive or optimistic, I'm just like, my mind just turns off, because I'm like, okay, you're a cynic, and I kind of just can't listen to that. Like, it just, I can't,
Yeah, I just thought of something. I'm not going to go political, but just looking at both of us on this podcast and what's going around in the world, that does not exist everywhere in the world. And that's important to know. And then that's all I'm going to say on that. And whoever's watching this podcast, they'll immediately be like, oh, you're right. This is the reality. Yeah. And as long as we keep showing this, and this outshines the other, this is again passing that torch. That light needs to be louder. That light needs to be brighter. So that's all I'm going to say on that. But we're doing it, and it's natural. And we didn't even think about that until 45 minutes into the podcast. That thought enters my mind. But that's the reality. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm going to get deeper into your brain a little bit. I want to know what a key resource that you're using that contributes to your success, that like keeps you organized, or that just helps you understand and keeps you on track to what you're doing.
I got a really good one, and the name is kind of weird and it's hard to remember. So anybody listening should probably get ready to write it down or repeat this. Yeah. So I'll just spell it.
Okay.
GOOGLE.com.
I just spelled it. Hold on, I know that word. Bro, I was like, hold on, this is gonna be crazy. Oh man.
I know.
I like it. Tell us about Google. What is?
I thought about that one for a second. I love the spirit of the question, but
yeah.
I'm really militant in my response to that, and that's really what I tell everyone.
Man, that's awesome.
I just so want to kind of just fight back against the magic bullet mentality that a lot of, and there are a lot of good tools that I use. I love creating graphics, in After Effects, and I think the Adobe Creative Suite for anyone operating in the year 2017 is kind of like a must-have, things like that. But really, you can really, everything's out there, and really all it comes down to is how consistently can you execute against the plan. The plan doesn't even have to be that great to be complete.
Genius. Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, and it's really not genius. And I'm sorry, there's not a sexy answer to that. But I think that there should be a sexy answer to that, and that's just my own, one man's opinion.
I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday. Like consistent execution and inching towards your goal is. We were talking about learning a language, and someone who studies, a different language, and they only do it on the weekends for 20 years, is still going to learn a language before someone who never studied it for 40. And I know that's like the over exaggerate. You know what I mean, though? But still doing it over time. My professor, my international relations professor at the Naval Academy, took him 20 years to earn his PhD. He was in the Air Force.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he retired from the Air Force, and then he kept going to college. But while he was in the Air Force, he took only a few credits at a time. And they kept deploying him. He kept coming back. Love the guy to death. He's just a huge inspiration. 20 years, PhD. Like that's insane. And no one cares at that point. Like, he was my professor. Like, that's how we knew him. And he didn't have to tell us that story, but he did. And so people who might feel like they're behind right now, they're like, oh, I'm 29 and I don't have an MBA, but I do want it one day. But now I'm too old. No, you're not. You're not too old to do the stuff you want. If you want to learn how to code, you can learn how to code. Like, you don't have to be 21 to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's a really good point. Is people, and it's just so prolific. People, for some reason, are so bought into this, like these crazy limiting beliefs, and they're just they're perpetuated on such a high level that it just blows my. So something that another thing that Gary talks about a lot is speaking prolifically on macro trends that you're going to be right about. And one thing that that you're going to be right about, I'm going to be right about, anybody in our sphere is going to be right about, is the fact that you don't have to be pigeonholed, and you can figure out and do whatever it is that you want to do. If you're 40 years old and you've worked as a garbage man, but you want to learn to code and build an app, legitimately, you can actually do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you can work as a garbage man, and at night you can learn to code on your, like, you legitimately don't even need a computer. Oh, I take that back. You do need a computer to code, but you can learn. You can read.
There's books. There's books on, and eventually, I get 100% what you're saying.
So, I think the big picture thing there is limiting beliefs and this desire of a lot of people to just pigeonhole other people and to silo them into what they think of them as. Yeah. And it's hard for people to break out of that. And you might think, oh no, I'm just going to do whatever I want. Which, yes, I want to encourage that, but realize that it's hard to go against the expectations of your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, definitely. People underestimate the difficulty that there is there. And so, I want to be here to support whoever is going through that, because I've gone through it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, I'm an infantry officer. I'm not supposed to start a coconut oil company for women's hair and skin. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to manage social media for an investment podcast. You know?
Yeah. But I mean, anything is possible, and I think if we ask our military to do some, especially in wartime, some pretty insane feats. So I think in more of a peacetime environment, like, this should not be shocking. These are the type of people that are doing it. They're doing great things. I mean, in the officer world and enlisted world alike, I love, especially when we pull the curtain behind and see what our military is doing. Like, they're doing their jobs well. Like, we have, and I'm obviously going to boast, I think the world's finest military. And now I'm starting to see they're able to do even more than just that. They're not simply defined by what their military occupational specialty is. There's more to it.
Yeah.
Multifaceted lifestyles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Google. I could talk about this stuff forever. I'm gonna break into what's your biggest obstacle. We're gonna go a little bit deeper into your brain. That you've ever faced, and maybe it was helped by mentorship, maybe it wasn't. But how did you overcome it?
Yeah. My biggest obstacle. I think. Yeah. So what immediately comes to mind is divorce is I think the first thing that comes to mind. So I'm unique in more than one way.
Yeah.
I'm 24 and divorced. So I dated the same girl from high school all the way through West Point, and we got married after West Point. And we weren't, we obviously had dated since we were a lot younger, and as our like life goals kind of changed and morphed a little bit, we realized that we kind of just made more sense for us to go our separate ways. She wasn't sure if she wanted to do, the military wife thing. I kind of wanted to do like more high speed stuff in the Army. And I know you can come this way, brother. So we decided to go our separate ways at the time, and I'm totally okay with it now. Like she's still one of my best friends, and we're on great terms. But at the time, it was gut wrenching, and it was really hard. But that experience was by far like I was pretty motivated and dedicated to whatever I was inspired to do. I've been the type of person who really went after what I wanted before that.
Yeah.
But where I am now is on a whole new level. And the reason is that I realize that any obstacle that gets put in my way is an opportunity for growth and to excel. So you'll remember earlier in the show I recommended Ryan Holiday's books.
Yeah.
His first book that gained a lot of popularity was The Obstacles. The Seahawks credit that book with their Super Bowl victory. And the general philosophy is that any obstacle just gives you an opportunity to flex your problem solving and resiliency muscles.
Yeah.
And going through that really solidified that for me. And it also made me realize that I needed to self-generate my feelings of love for myself. I couldn't depend on, so I want to be clear here. I love other people, and I love my parents and they love me, and that's a great relationship.
Yeah.
But I can't be dependent on someone else for my feeling of self-worth. Does that make sense? And that reality just like came on like a spotlight.
Yeah.
And my sense of self-efficacy and my belief in what's possible really was blown out, like to such a wider horizon after that. So at the time, a really negative thing in my life became a very positive thing.
Wow.
I hope that answered the original question.
Wow, no, it did, and just pushing through it and not staying in that situation in a negative term, and you're resilient, and that's that's what it shows. Like you're resilient, and you continue to grow and get stronger through hardship. So, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, transitioning from the hardest obstacle, what is a quote, a poem, or a short passage that, again, like when you're in your hard times, or even when you're in good times, to maintain it, that's kind of your mantra?
Yeah. So the Ryan Holiday keeps coming up.
No,
I'll stay on that theme.
Yeah.
I think I said earlier that I'm re-listening to Ego is the Enemy right now.
Okay.
And a phrase that I literally came across today as I was listening to it, and it just like totally stood out to me, is he talks about anthembulos in the book. And what an anthembulo was it's someone who, I think in Rome, went ahead of some great, lord or merchant or whatever, and literally cleared the path for that person, or made announcements, or basically made preparations for their arrival.
Yeah.
So what Ryan Holiday encourages is for someone who's young and on the come up and trying to make a name for themselves, the most effective way to do that, based on a lot of case studies that he's made, such as Bill Belichick and Benjamin Franklin and a lot of other people, is if you can act as an Anthony Bulow for someone who is already successful, and this comes back to mentorship, if you can clear the path for someone else, you then can shape the direction of the path, and that's ultimately how you clear your own path.
Yeah.
So I literally just made a little thing in Photoshop to make that my lock screen, and it says clear the path, because I realize that whenever I encounter hardship, it's because I start worrying about me getting mine. And whenever I'm the most productive and being the best version of me is when I'm thinking about clearing the path for someone else. So when I'm tweeting for Macro Voices or doing outreach for them, just because I want the show to do well, or when I'm reaching out to influencers for Tosa to try to do anthems or get a song on blogs and stuff, that's when I'm doing the best, not worrying about me, but worrying about clearing the path for someone else.
Definitely. No, I like that. I'll get the spelling, Anthony Bulow. That's a pretty phenomenal concept, and
I have no idea how to spell that.
I'm gonna Google it. What do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. Yeah, it exists out there. Yeah. Wow, we are at like 58 minutes into this podcast. It's crazy. It went like that. I wasn't even checking the time, and we're already at. I love this portion. You've already spilled your heart. You just have tons of value and knowledge that you shared on here. And the final portion is the pass the torch portion of the podcast. And we give guests 1 minute. So torch holders, we've arrived at the time in our program where our guest has 1 minute to pass the torch and leave a legacy. We all know that a mentor is a person who has achieved a level of success that we desire and can effectively guide us to success as well. Based on the success you, Brad, have achieved in your life at this point, if you could pass the torch and leave a legacy message to your former self or anyone in the similar situation as you right now, how would you pass the torch in 1 hot minute?
Yeah. So I would really hone in on the idea of being true to yourself, and that's such a worn and trite phrase. Yeah. I'm hesitant to use it, but it really is it's so critical to being successful. If you're not true to your own values and really, I'm even tempted to say disregarding everyone else around you, you really have to block out the entire world, figure out what you want, reverse engineer that, and then do whatever it takes to get there, and not look up and not care about what anyone else thinks of you. And that's so easy to say, but so hard. If you can really listen to me and really not give a literal, can I curse on that? I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
You can.
If you can not give a fuck what anyone thinks of you, that's the way that you win.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love it. Man, you are... Shoot. So Pete introduced you to pass the torch? Okay, I gotta thank him.
Yeah.
I gotta thank him. You're someone I'm absolutely gonna... I'm gonna keep in touch with you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Bro, I'm like bowing down. It was an awesome show. Thank you so much for all the knowledge that you shared and knowledge that you passed on.
I really appreciate the time, brother.
Definitely. Hey, this is another knowledge-filled, phenomenal, on-fire show of Pass the Torch podcast with Brad and Levante. Until next time, we are reminding you to seek knowledge and pass the torch.